For those of you who are not finished with your lunch, please continue. For those who are, we would like to get right ahead telling you about something that has just come out. It's our brochure for our speaker series this year. Out on the table outside, you'll find some of these brochures, and Terry is right here. Terry, would you mind standing up? And if you're interested in buying one of the speaker series, she would be the person to get in contact with. Thank you, Terry, for standing up. This is going to be an exceptionally good speaker series, and as you can see here today, our second program in the speaker series, you can see the quality of what this is. Now, you may purchase for $92 the programs that are left. This is what you would get for $92. You get a total package. 7 events will be in the series, and I'd like to mention that there will be 2 evening meetings. We're going to have an evening meeting that will involve a legislative forum. It will be Senator Becky Morgan, Ernie Conyu, Chuck Quackenbush, Diane McKenna. We'll have a power speaker. We think he's going to be great, James Trabig, president of Tandem Computers. We're going to have Jeanette Garrity, senior economist with the Bank of America, and Jeanette's going to tell us what's going to happen economically in the next year, and I know you don't want to miss that. Bill Honig is going to be here to talk to us about what's happening in public education. John Gatto is going to be giving us the State of the City address, our mayor. David and Doris Bosson, president and vice president of Measure X, are going to be here to tell us what it's like to start a major company. And of course, they're right here in our own community. Then the last in the series in June is going to be a special program honoring the past presidents of the Cupertino Chamber of Commerce. Those people have been putting on the luncheons and doing so much work in our community. We'd like to honor those people. So don't forget, you can purchase this series right here today, and this is what you get. For your $92, you get guaranteed admittance to every event. We do expect some of the events to sell out. You get easy entry to the events. You don't have to stand in line. You know, we might even roll out a red carpet. Who knows? No hassles with paying separately for each event. Also, remember your pass is transferable in your company. Tommy Shui, for instance, could get all of the people in his company. He could, you know, if Tommy can't make it, somebody could come in his stead. So don't forget that they are available today. Terry Wilkerson is ready to sell those to you, so don't forget before you leave. And as you're talking to people, remember there are some evening meetings. We realize there are chamber members who can't always come out to lunch, but there are some evening ones for that. Really outstanding meeting today to be able to show you and you can listen to the people who are going to represent us in the city of Cupertino today. This is our election time, as you know, November 3rd, and we have not only the people who are running for the city council in Cupertino, but I'd like to mention that we have a school board election as well. I believe we have some candidates here today. Elaine White, who's running for the school board in Cupertino. Elaine, would you stand so everyone could see you? Steve Schell, who is running for the Cupertino School Board. Do we have any other candidates who are running in the Cupertino Elementary School District? Okay, I'd like to mention that there's going to be a forum at Miller Junior High School on Monday, the 19th at 7:30 p.m. That's going to be a forum of the City Council candidates. Also on Tuesday, what did I say? Okay, school board candidates. Tuesday, the 20th, on Channel 30, there will be a call-in show from 6:45 to 7, and you'd be able to call in, ask them any questions that you might have, and I'm sure they'll respond, answer your questions for you. Now, on to the big program right here. I'm going to be introducing John Sobrato. John is our Vice President for Governmental Relations. He's done a terrific job. He and his committee, I think, have really helped educate us in the Chamber about that connection with City Hall and with our community and the governmental part of our organization. Now, John has worked long and hard in keeping us in touch, and I might add that in his other job, or the other hat that he wears, he oversees the marketing, financing, and daily operations of the family Sobrato firm. It's Sobrato Development Companies. They're a major Santa Clara County real estate firm. Have a beautiful pink building over on Highway, De Anza Boulevard, in case you haven't noticed. Okay, at this time, I would like to welcome John Sobrato, who's going to be telling us how this meeting is going to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. The Chamber's Government Relations Committee felt it beneficial to divide this afternoon's forum into two distinct parts. First, the committee developed 4 comprehensive questions on which we felt specific positions would be vital to preserve a healthy Cupertino business environment. The 4 questions were, number 1, what do you feel the role of the Chamber of Commerce is in our community and in relation to City Hall? Secondly, do you support the existing general plan? And if not, what areas need additional review? Thirdly, do you support or oppose additional development as provided for under the existing general plan? And lastly, given the shortage of existing funding mechanisms, how should the general plan elements for housing, parks, recreation, and roadways be funded within our community? Each of the candidates were asked to address these questions in their opening remarks, along with any other issues they felt were important to their candidacy. While the committee felt that these prepared responses are useful, we also felt that the membership ought to have an opportunity to ask questions on issues of particular interest to them, and thus additionally offer us an opportunity to hear more spontaneous responses from the candidates. To this end, the second portion of our forum allots 10 to 15 minutes for questions, probably closer to 10 because we got a little late start. So with that introduction, I would like to introduce our first candidate, Peter Haas, who requested that I introduce him as this year's dark horse candidate. So I'm doing that, and Peter.
The emphasis there is on horse and not any other animal. My name is spelled with 2 A's and 1 S. Sometimes that gets confused in the typesetting room somewhere. I like the dark horse, though, is partly a joke to make sure you're all awake, and also it's partly true. I think that of all the people that are here on the podium today that I'm sharing this event with, there's no doubt that both Barbara and Barbara, you don't mind if I put you in the other order, Barbara and Barbara and Alf too have all contributed, and especially the 2 ladies on my right did a fantastic job on the bicentennial celebration we all were in one way or another probably involved with. So I'm definitely the junior person on this ballot. The question is, what are my qualifications? There's some basic ones perhaps that are relevant. I have a Master of Arts in International Relations from Johns Hopkins University. I have lived both in Cupertino. I've been a homeowner since '76 here in Cupertino, and then lived more recently 4 years in Germany, where I worked for Timeshare, which was also a Cupertino company before it got gobbled up. And I'd like to sort of think that what I would add to this Cupertino City Council is perhaps an international awareness. One of the things that in the back of my mind was this summer there were 2 openings for the City Council, and at that point there were really only 2 declared candidates as the deadline rolled on. That sort of disturbed me because that sort of thing is only supposed to happen in the Soviet Union and in Chicago. And my thought was, let's make this a little bit more interesting. I am a serious candidate, although the record shows I've not spent to the degree that of anyone else, perhaps, that will talk to you today. But that does not make me any the less serious in my own way. And I like to essentially come in and just let you know that I am a junior, so there will be things that I won't be able to tell you about my years of experience on this commission or that commission, but I still hope that if you have questions, that you like the way that I approach the problems rather than have to base everything on a track record of what went before. So I think at that point I'll just, surprisingly for myself, even stop and thank you very much for this opportunity to address you, and I think I'd rather be part of the question and answer session than to go on in any detail at this point. I am, by the way, also a small businessman in Cupertino. I have a registered business and do some sort of part-time international computer and telecommunications consulting, and I'm employed full-time. My regular job is with a company in San Mateo, which provides also computer products and international connectivity. All this, again, just to underline the international aspect, and I think that our challenge in the 1990s and as we approach the new century is going to be not only Cupertino or just Silicon Valley, but how do we make Cupertino interesting to international companies, and not just American international companies, but really allow us to compete on the world scale. Thank you.
You bet. Okay. Our next candidate, we're doing this in alphabetical order, not very creative, but the way that I thought to do things, at least to be fair, on the way over here is Barbara Koppel. And I'm sure most of you here in the chamber are familiar with Barbara. She's one of our past recipients of the Cupertino Citizen of the Year Award and our former marketing manager, and has been an active member of our community since she moved here 11 years ago. Now, Barbara has laryngitis, so I found out when I arrived here, but she did prepare a statement to address some of the questions that I reviewed earlier, and Betty Bidwell is going to be reading that for her, and then either Betty or I can repeat some of her responses as we get to the question and answer period. So, Barbara and Betty.
You want to stand up so that they know who you are? For once in Barbara's life, she's speechless. I'm not sure about her timing. I think it might be a little off. I was going to say something nice about thanking her for the vote of confidence. She's an old and dear friend. Because she's in politics, you know her age. Because I'm not in politics, I'm still 39. Get the record perfectly clear on that. I am going to read her speech because I cannot speak for Barbara, and she tried to write this in the best manner that would make a flowing speech. If there are any emphasis that I get wrong, you'll see her flinch. And I'll start. I would like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for giving me this opportunity to talk to you about my campaign. My husband Bob, our two sons, Steve, Scott, and I moved here 12 years ago. I immediately became involved in the community, was PTA president at both Regnart Elementary and Monte Vista High School for 2 years each. I was president of the Cupertino Youth Soccer Association, corresponding secretary for Route 85 Task Force, and I am now on the board of managers for the Northwest YMCA and Rotary's Camp Ryla, which is a leadership award committee for high school seniors. I was co-founder of Super Schools, which is the foundation for the Fremont Union High School District, brings in extra funds for various educational needs of our high schools. In 1980, I was the co-founder of the West Cupertino Homeowners Association, which is 300 families strong. I initiated the famous traffic court at that time, which tracked vehicles entering Cupertino at 85 and Stevens Creek, and commuted through our fair city to their exiting point. We tracked, counted, recorded, and made a formal presentation to our city council that convinced them that we do need 85, and not to abandon the 85 corridor. I presently serve on 2 city commissions, Parks and Rec, and also the Bicentennial, of which we recently had a wonderful parade, thanks to Dennis Prouty and other people in the audience. I am also a member of the Cupertino Women in Business, Cupertino Inner Wheel, and Quota Club International. Among the awards I have received is the PTA's Honorary Service Award in 1980, a Special PTA Award in 1983, the Cupertino Civic and City Award in 83, and the Distinguished Citizen Award presented by the Chamber of Commerce in 1984. My most recent employment, as John said, was the marketing manager of our chamber. And I left that position in June to actively campaign for the city council. Some of the concerns I have regarding Cupertino are traffic, and more traffic. As I walk precincts, this seems to be our residents' concern. We need to maintain our target date for the groundbreaking for Highway 85 in April of 1988. The freeway agreements are presently in the process of being signed, specifically by Cupertino and Campbell. We also need to upgrade our interconnect system, which is the traffic signals. We must be cautious of opening and closing our neighborhood streets. Another concern is housing and density. We need to find a solution to our needs for affordable housing here in Cupertino. I'll second that. I can't afford to live here. But we must also maintain the neighborhood character and consider our traffic and service needs to these residents. There are many programs competing for city dollars. We must carefully review our expenditures at each department level while continuing to give Cupertino citizens the much-needed services. The City of Cupertino needs to continue to support and promote the cooperation of various agencies within the city. We have a new Fine Arts Commission, which is working cooperatively with the Cupertino Elementary School District and the Fremont Union High School District to extend music and art services to the students. Just this last week, the Chamber of Commerce had a very successful Shop Cupertino program to get people to shop Cupertino, keep the tax dollar here. This was done with the full support, including financial, of our city, working together to continue to be successful. Another successful city agency is the Banking Project, working with the Chamber and schools. These interagency programs are a vital network here in the community and need to be continued. I would like to see us incorporate a Cupertino Roundtable where business, city, schools, and citizens could discuss various problems and work them out over a roundtable. We need to continue to make sure we are always following the general plan. We also need to address second-story residential additions. There seems to be a lot of concern in the community on the rather weak restrictions that we have, and they need to be reviewed and updated. Our Cupertino Scene is one of the strongest and most useful publications in our city. We need to explore additional ways in which citizens are informed, including finding a way for Channel 30 to be made available to all our residents, just not United Cable. Guild subscribers also want to know what's going on in the city. We were asked to address the following questions. What do you feel is the role of the Chamber? I feel the role of the Chamber is to improve the business climate in both the community and at City Hall, to stimulate the community into shopping Cupertino, realizing a portion of every dollar spent remains here as our tax base. I think the Chamber has come a long way in a working relationship with City Hall, and I hope to see that continue. Do I support the general plan? I have a qualified support of the general plan. The concerns are regarding development without traffic mitigation. For this same reason, I am also concerned about additional development that is provided in this general plan. However, I feel that when 85 is in place, hopefully most of our traffic concerns will improve or be eliminated. The existing fund mechanism with the general plan elements for housing, parks, and rec. The only reason that we're short right now is due to our enthusiastic capital improvement on our roads. This is a short-term problem and should not be a problem according to my conversations at City Hall. If it were, we would have to prioritize our needs. For those of you that know me, you realize I have a genuine interest and concern for the city of Cupertino. I also have a very strong involvement in the Cupertino community and a knowledge of city and community organizations. I believe I have proven that I have a good working relationship with the business and community leaders. I am always willing to take on new challenges. I do believe in getting new people involved in our government because there's always a need for new blood. I will always listen to my constituents, report back, not always with the answer they might want to hear, but I do believe the lines of communication will always be open to me. So I will listen carefully, act responsibly to your concerns and ideas. I have a sincere commitment to Cupertino, and I hope I can count on your vote November 3rd. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. Next, we have Alf Modine, who has been a resident of Cupertino for 29 years and a member of 2 citizen goal committees, both in 1970 and 1980 during the general plan reviews. So, ladies and gentlemen, Alf Modine.
Thanks for inviting the candidates out to your candidates forum, this one particularly. And one comment I might add is that this mic is a little low for one thing. There. I'm going to take the initiative to say that perhaps God is on my side because Barbara's got laryngitis today. One thing I'm going to say to Peter is that I'm from Chicago originally and know how the elections are run there. And there may be two parties, but there is people getting up from the grave and people from Madison Street voting who never even were registered, and all sorts of things. We even catch that in San Francisco occasionally. So we don't want to see that here, that's for sure. My opponent spoke of affordable housing. Although she was one of the founders of the West Valley Homeowners Association, I understand, they have opposed the Seven Springs Ranch adamantly. And if they were really for affordable housing, that project would have got underway a long time ago, because the prices of those homes is nowhere going down, it's going up. So if we're really for affordable housing, let's get something done and get some more houses built out there. Now, one important issue that the Chamber, I'm sure, is concerned about, or should be, is the selection of a city manager coming up. Nobody's spoken about that. And I would like to say that if I were on the council, I would be looking for a fiscally conservative candidate. And that is one prime requirement I'd be looking for. As for the traffic in the 85 corridor, I was on the subcommittee of the 1980 Goals Committee studying the traffic problems in the city, and we hired, with the city council's permission, DeLu Cather to do a study for us. It cost $10,000, and we made certain recommendations to the city, and on that committee was Burl Leonard, Will Lester, and Ann Anger, Don Froelich, myself, and maybe a few others. And I pointed out the fact, at that time the staff took the position we didn't need 85 in Cupertino. But the traffic looping down 85 going into Prospect would definitely help alleviate our problems in the central core on DeAnne's and Stevens Creek Boulevards. And that was adequately pointed out to them, and they were a little surprised at the result it would produce. The existing general plan. Well, I haven't reviewed it for some time, and I understand there's restrictions put on it, like for one-story developments in only certain parts of the city. I don't know how that decision was made, but with the values of property going up, I would assume that people would be adding second stories rather than selling their properties because they can't afford to sell their house and move somewhere else. So this was not properly addressed by the council, and when people came up to add second stories, they found out they had to move their foundations 1 foot to conform with the regulations because they were adding a second story and the setbacks were different. This problem has still not been resolved as far as I know. I think the addition of second stories in houses could be a very touchy issue because you're going to shut out light and space for your neighbor, but they could be resolved in a voluntary way rather than a regulatory way by the city. So I would recommend that. I would recommend no new taxes to be placed on new construction, and I would work for the repeal of the construction tax. I don't think it's fair. I would oppose, although I would be only one vote, and that's something else I want to discuss with you. I was approached, one of the chamber members, I won't give his name, but he said, you've been sort of a confrontation with the council. This is true, but if you want, the members of the council presently, at least I believe, are of the liberal bent. The regulators, the people who like to say, well, the city, there ought to be a law for this, for that, and everything else. Okay, but I'm the conservative, and I'm the only conservative candidate, as far as I know, that is running. We should have a balance between the conservatives and the liberals. Not necessarily a confrontation, but at least a balance. If I was up there, I would bring the conservative viewpoint. And we have John Plengy in the audience, if I may say so. Phil Johnson, who is McCorkadale's intern, mostly of liberal bent. And if you want to go in the direction that Santa Cruz has gone, in the direction that Berkeley has gone, and when you get up before the city council and you ask for certain things that the business community wants, yes, John? Okay. I thought he wanted to go to the washroom. Was he going to give you permission? You can go. Anyway, so that's the kind of thing you're going to come up against. And If you want to go the way that I said with Berkeley or Santa Cruz goes, keep electing liberals to the council, and you're going to have all kinds of confrontations with the business community, believe me. And there's an issue of the nuclear freeze. That should never have been brought up to the council. It should have been put on the ballot, and let the people vote on it, but not an issue for the city council to take. I have worked in emergency preparedness. I'd like to discuss it with the council, the Chamber of Commerce sometime, how the Chamber of Commerce can participate in emergency preparedness programs. I've always talked to Pat about it, and I'd like to speak to you about it sometime in the near future. I guess my time is running out, so I'll turn it back to John.
Well, I was going to give him a little extra time when I heard him mention the repeal of the construction taxes. But trying to be impartial here, we'll continue on. Lastly, we have Barbara Rogers, which I know you all are familiar with as well, who has been our city councilwoman for the last 2 years. And last 2 terms, sorry about that. Everybody got that. And served on our board of directors for the past 4 years. So, ladies and gentlemen, Barbara Rogers.
Thank you, John. Good afternoon. I'm happy to have the opportunity to talk with you. In 1978, I ran for the City Council after having served for 4 years on 2 advisory commissions to the city because I wanted to help keep Cupertino a good place in which to live and work and help keep the City Council open and honest and responsive. And I think I've made a difference and helped do that. Thank you. At the first budget meeting I attended, we had a document submitted that was virtually a final document, and I was concerned that we didn't have enough input early on. Today we do. I brought back the pornography ordinance to the council agenda. It was passed, and today we do not have such things as the cover of Hustler on magazine racks within 300 feet of schools. I led the effort to establish a Fine Arts Commission and the Bicentennial Commission, which I chaired and on which a lot of people have worked very hard. And congratulations to all of them. I also chair presently the Commission for the High School Competition for the Bicentennial in this congressional district. You'll be hearing more about that. And I led the effort to remodel City Hall and the library, and we move into a remodeled facility in 2 months, exactly. More importantly, I'm a team player. I work well with people. I think it's important that we have a city council that can work together to get things done, to address all the problems we have, large and small. And we do work well together. I'm proud of that. We all serve on many committees locally, at the county level, in the Bay Area, at the state level and nationally, to try to address some of the larger problems that transcend city boundaries. One of the committees on which I serve is the Tanner Committee, which has to do with recommending to the county and the cities how hazardous and toxic wastes will be disposed of finally after efforts are made to recycle and reduce the amount of them. I think this is vital. Some of the other larger issues that transcend our city boundaries that face us as a challenge are clean air, clean water, solid waste disposal, and of course traffic. I'm proud that in Cupertino we are proactive in addressing traffic issues, that we look to see what will be the impact on traffic of development and get the mitigating measures in place before the development is allowed to take place. And Highway 85 is alive. Many of us worked for many years, many hours to keep it in the work plan. A lot of individuals are here today, and it's due to the efforts of you and a lot of people in the surrounding cities, such that in April we can look forward to the groundbreaking for the continuation of 85. I believe that the city gives good service, but more important, it's necessary for people to recognize what it is the city does and understand, and that means communication. And I've worked to increase the level and the quality of communication. I kept the Cupertino Scene as a city publication after Jim Jackson left the city council until we hired a public relations officer. I worked to keep KKUP a viable radio station here in Cupertino. I was on the first committee to look at setting up cable TV here in the city, and I'm proud that we've been able to televise both our council and planning commission meetings since January of 1985. Communication is more than that, though. It's working together and recognizing the good that people do. And this is a good community, and I've worked to increase the recognition of not only staff that work so hard in this city, but all the individuals and all the groups that do indeed make a difference. And we need more and better cooperation. We've had a great deal. I think it needs to improve even more. I'm proud of the cooperative efforts we've had with the schools, and I look to even more of that in the future, and likewise with the Chamber. I've worked hard as an individual in this city to make it a better community. I'm proud that I was a founding member of Cupertino Community Services, of Cupertino Women in Business, of the Quota Club of Cupertino. I'm on the Board of Trustees for Cogswell Polytechnical College, and I'm very proud indeed to be the first sitting council member, I think, to be elected to the Board of Directors of this Chamber of Commerce. The role of the Chamber, as I see it, generally is to enhance the business climate in the community so that businesses feel that they can come into this community and can make a profit, and indeed do. And part of this larger perspective is making sure that the residents understand what it is that the Chamber and what business does for this community, that it's sales tax that provides many of the amenities which we enjoy, and that we really need to continue having a balanced community of residential, of retail, office, and of commercial, and of industrial. We operate under a general plan as is mandated by the state. Many of the people in this room worked very hard for 3 years on a general plan advisory committee, and that plan was adopted by the city in 1983. I support the general plan, and I support generally the development which is mandated under it. I would like to look at that development on a case-by-case basis to address possible concerns with a particular application. I expect that the City Council will set up another general plan advisory committee in the next couple of years or so, because indeed the city has changed, and we need to look again afresh at how the city will continue to develop as it matures and how to maintain our quality of life. The budget hearings we have are probably the most important meeting we have all year. Very few people attend, but we really need to have you come to help us make the decisions on streets, housing, parks, and recreation. I believe that's the forum to make the decisions for funding, where we look at the resources we have and the needs we have. I believe my contacts, my experience, my caring about this community will help immeasurably in the next 4 years. I ask for your support and your vote on November 3 and your continued assistance.
Thank you, Barbara. And now it's really all of your turns. If there's anybody who would like to ask a question, just raise your hand. I'll recognize you and repeat it for the benefit of the television broadcast, and so that all in the audience can hear. And then whoever the question is addressed to will come up and give their answer. Yes? Okay, the question was, what about expanding human service needs within the budget? And that's addressed to anyone. Okay, this is on a volunteer basis. Would anybody? Okay, maybe several could give their answers. That might be a nice way to hear some divergent views. Peter? Yeah, we need to. These are just for show over here, so we're looking for.
I couldn't make any snide comments because I'm afraid the microphone might really be on after all. This is an interesting issue. Again, as a novice here, I'd like to share one little aspect. I've been getting some letters, and I think other people who are candidates or who are council members have received letters like this in the past about concern for specifically a skating rink in Valco and its maintenance or its continuation. These are one of these things that it's not an easy issue. In some ways, that's a private industry decision. In some ways, there is a community benefit. And I think, but we could sort of, just to use that specific, after talking with several people, both in the city staff and also the person who wrote the letter, actually there were two people who wrote letters, my approach would be, if I were elected, to see if we can work out an an arrangement where it's not somebody getting and somebody losing, but look at any sort of benefit, social service, and say, make sure that the people who can contribute don't just expect a free lunch or that they are owed a service. I think if you look at something like ice skating or tennis courts, which has been an item that's been brought up before at the council meeting a couple of weeks ago, that sort of thing where it's rather discretionary, but there is maybe a good social service or social benefit to the city of Cupertino. But I think that would be something that there ought to be a substantial contribution from the people who are directly choosing this activity. Other services, the more basic needs for our general youth programs, for seniors, the senior center, that sort of thing, I think is definitely something that the city should continue and expand upon. I think actually the Parks and Recreation is a good example of how to work a city budget and how to work a program. And I think we should definitely continue on in that level.
Sure. Ladies first.
I think it's very important that a city take care, or a community take care of its own people, not leave it to the county or the state or the federal government. To that end, I helped found Cupertino Community Services, which I think does a wonderful job. Probably the people working there and the deputies and the firefighters are the only ones who really understand the magnitude of the problem of the needy and the people who need help in this community. The city has given some funding as it could from general revenue monies that we got from the federal government. That may be cut off. John Plungy was very active and instrumental in that. I think this is important, but it's only a drop in the bucket. The city cannot fund all that's necessary to be done. It really takes a coordinated effort on the part of everybody, and I'm proud when I see so many people involved in caring and helping others.
I did say ladies first, but she motioned me up here, so I'll make my 2 cents. I agree with Peter that the situation in the skating rink should be done by private funds if possible. I suggest probably a foundation. Maybe Boitano can start it. He's a good one. He's a local boy. He's a skating star. If he got involved in a foundation for the skating rink, I think that would be an excellent idea. We can ask him. That's one. And if any available funds are from the Parks and Recreations, maybe we could make a small donation, but I certainly wouldn't make a bid to support the whole thing. I don't know exactly how expensive that is to hold that rink up, but I imagine it's not very cheap. But a private foundation would be the answer to that. As far as the needs for the human needs, I think for the citizens, we need to develop our parks, facilities. If that's a human need, I think it is. Instead of expanding the park system and buying more land, we should develop what we have. Thank you.
Because I'm sure there's other questions, Barbara feels very much like Barbara Rogers that this is something the community should take care of their own with the city's direction. If I got those words wrong, it's remember what Barbara Rogers said.
You know, I'd like to have the ability to extend the time period. It's already 1:30, our traditional time to end our lunches. So what I'd like to do, if we could, if there are people that would like to leave now that have other commitments, feel free to do so, but those that would like to remain and have a question that they would like to ask, hopefully the candidates can remain for another 5 or 10 minutes and handle any remaining questions. So maybe if we can just take 10 or 15 seconds here to excuse those that would like to go. I'll also ask the candidates to keep their responses down to about 15 or 20 seconds so we can try to get through a few more questions. And lastly, for anyone left that would like to ask some questions, there's a microphone about 2/3 of the way back if you could use that to ask your question, it will speed things up a bit. Okay, Charles. Just to repeat the question, the question was asked, how could we exploit the international perspective amongst people of the council, directed to Peter Haas.
Thanks for the question. I think sometimes it's little issues that sort of make us look like we're still back where we were 50 years ago, which might have been good, but it's not where we are. Part of it is just education, make sure that that people in our school district or in our general area here are aware that there are people here who are not necessarily American citizens. Make sure that our banks don't give you a dumb look when you come in with a Deutschmark traveler's check, which has happened, and I've heard about this. We need to make sure that I'm sure in real estate it's been obvious that people who buy property here are not necessarily American citizens and may not ever intend to be. We've got a different perspective. We've got a different economic base, or we can have an economic base that should be tuned to the 1990s. And it's not just the old immigrants from Europe that made this place the Valley of the Heart's Delight. It's a little different group now, and I'm not sure that we are really addressing international groups. We have Olivetti, we have Jean-Louis Gasset, who's had a very prominent position at Apple, but I haven't seen anything recent come along, and we really need to be able to compete on the world market, not just among ourselves in Santa Clara Valley. That's, I think, the real challenge is. I don't have a specific program, but I think there's an awareness that is maybe not quite there. Even knowledge of the metric system. I don't see any signs that are put up here that show kilometers, but you go down to Santa Cruz County where they have a lot less international presence, and you see a lot of road signs that are done in metric. Here I see like we're back in the 40s as far as that's concerned. We've gone backwards on metrification.
Thank you, Peter. Any other questions? No? Well, if not, now's your chance, as they say. Okay. With that, I'll turn the program back over to Yvette.
First, of course, I would like to thank our candidates and thank you for being present this afternoon. And as I walked outside, as you understand, some of the people have business appointments they have to get back to. We apologize that it took a little bit longer, but they wanted to express to all of you how important it was for them to be here with you and for you to be here with us today. I would like to close by congratulating some of the recipients of our civic awards, and I would like to really mention that out of the 16 awards given this past week, Herman Hitchman, Don Allen, Sam Bruni, Cindy Rothman all received civic awards, and our very own Vice President Pat Jackson received the City Award, and we're very proud of that in our membership. So we want to close by saying that, by thanking them. We have an active chamber and a chamber that cares, and good luck, and may the best people win. Thank you very much. Meeting's adjourned.